We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Wednesday. No guest today, but we are going to do a TikTok live for the podcast. I haven't gone live on TikTok as yet, but I'm going to hit that now and see if we can't get something going here. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. I fortunately have my moderators in line, TJ and Greg Captain. They're going to be out here helping me stave off the Trumplafucks. They're getting pretty hot as of late. They're not liking this Kamala Harris thing and they're getting nervous. As well, they should. They should be getting nervous at this point because Kamala's going to fuck Donald Trump up. She's the exact person, the right person to take the job, and she's going to take it to Donald Trump. All right, as we get people coming to TikTok live, I'm also recording this for the Rational Boomer podcast. So if you're around for a short time, can't hear the whole thing, but would like to, just go to Spotify or YouTube, search Rational Boomer, and you'll find it. TJ's out there. Great Captain's here. Great Captain says, give some good advice. Just ignore the trolls. They want to engage with you. They can't build a platform on their own, so they come into these situations and try to start shit. It doesn't do any good. You can't argue with them. They don't understand a fucking thing. And then they go whine into TikTok saying, oh, they're mean to me. You should take them down. So fuck them. Monica says, hey, Mike Harris, 2024. Do you have Bluetooth in your ear? Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. That's for the microphone for TikTok. I have another microphone right here, which is for the podcast. I could probably do it easier, but I don't know how. Hi, Mike from Savannah, Rovember. Hey, good to see you. You know how I feel about Savannah. Love Savannah. Hope to get back there in August. Philip Gray says you're a smart dude. I don't know if I'm that smart. I just pay attention to a lot, and then I kind of overanalyze shit. That's more of what I do. Thank you for what you do, buddy. Keep up the good work from Ding Dong. Thank you very much. Who do you think Harris will pick up as a VP? You know, I've been thinking about this, and there's a lot of ways to look at it. Pennsylvania would be a good state to get help in. So Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, might be a good choice. But then somebody was talking about it, and the last several VPs that were taken, they didn't take into consideration, getting some sway in the states. But somebody made a good comment about what kind of VP they should get. Now, the young people are kind of liking Kamala, certainly more so than Joe Biden. But her VP, instead of being in the right strategic state, this person said it should be somebody who appeals to the young people, the millennials and the Gen Zs. And that's exactly right. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good idea. That could be a Pete Buttigieg. I think he's still a little young to do it. It could be Shapiro. You don't want to get an old guy. Somebody was talking about Roy Cooper down in North Carolina, and he's a fine governor and he's a fine man, but he's an older white guy. We want to get away from that shit. So we'll see. Bender says Harris slayed today. Not the word I would use, but I'm 64 years old, but God bless you for using it. Yeah. Kamala Harris gave a speech, her first campaign speech as the presumptive nominee for president for the Democratic Party. She did it in Wisconsin, and she kicked some ass. When I sat and watched her, I realized she's the exact person we need for this moment in time to fight against the clown we've got to fight against, Donald Trump. She's a prosecutor. He's a felon. What better? He's old. She's younger. She's sharp. She's quick. She's on fire. Donald Trump's going to have trouble dealing with this situation. And this is who we should have had from the beginning. Now, a lot of people are saying to me, well, you gave us shit for wanting Joe Biden to step aside. I haven't changed my mind about that. Joe Biden's done a great job and people are pushing him to step aside. I still think Joe Biden could have won. I'm happy as hell that things took off for Kamala Harris, but don't think I'm going to admit I'm wrong for what you did to Joe Biden. Joe Biden deserves some respect. And you know what irritates me more than anything? These people that kept saying he's got to step aside, he's old, he's decrepit. Soon as he does step aside, they get what they want. Then they say, oh, he's so brave. We love Joe. Really? You weren't showing Joe love before. So don't try to shame me for accepting Kamala. I've said from the beginning, if it's Kamala, I've always supported her. I think she's a great choice. I think she'd be a great president. Uh, I was surprised by the fact that her popularity took off so fast, but I'm grateful for it. It's turned pretty much everything around for the Democrats. They needed some energy, and she brought the energy. She also brought a lot of money because in 36 hours, she fundraised $100 million, the most of any candidate in the history of this country. That's including Biden and including Donald Trump. All right. I've got a lot of people saying, I want to be a guest on your thing. I'm not going to do that because I'm recording this for the podcast. And if I put somebody live on with me, I always take a chance because I never know who I'm getting unless I really know you. And besides what's ever going on the podcast, they won't hear you. I'd be happy to set something up beforehand to do a live with somebody, or you can come on the podcast as well. All you have to do is send me an email at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Let's see here. Republicans are now worried about us being disenfranchised. It's that rich. I agree with you. Speak the truth. People in this country are mean to elderly people. She needs to initiate an open invitation to, if he shows, she slays. If not, she brings the answers. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about this. I just heard about this from one of somebody DM'd me from one of the peers I have on TikTok. And then I saw my dude on TikTok talking about this. Did you know that there's some representatives in Tennessee that are putting together articles of impeachment for Kamala Harris? Is that the perfect example of fucking pathetic? Yeah, they want to try to impeach Kamala Harris, for her work down at the border. God, they just don't let shit go, do they? And the funny thing about it is, if they try to impeach Kamala Harris, how did that go with Joe Biden? Didn't seem to go very well. And the thing about it is, in order to do that, it's going to take 4 or 5 months to do that, which is well past the election. So all the time you should have spent campaigning for your boy, you're going to be trying to impeach Kamala Harris. Yeah, hey, why don't you do that? They want to impeach. Let's see here. They want to try to impeach her because they're losing in November. Absolutely. This is a desperation thing. This is along the lines where they say, hey, you can't switch nominees. We'll sue. No, you won't, motherfucker, because there's no basis in law for you to sue. They haven't even had the convention yet. They haven't named a nominee. So how can you blame them for switching nominees at the last minute? The problem Republicans have with what happened here is because they can't think beyond the end of their nose. They kept talking shit about Joe Biden. They knew the possibility that Joe Biden might step aside, but they never made plans for if he did. They focused all their money and all their attention on Joe Biden. And I swear to you, Joe's a pretty wily dude. Joe Biden's a wily motherfucker. I think he specifically waited till after the convention to announce that he's stepping aside so the Republicans could look foolish, waste all their money, and waste all their strategy. And then he announces afterwards, and that's what they're mad about. They wasted all kinds of money on merch. They wasted all kinds of money on advertising. Now it's not fair. You can't do that. We're going to force you to make Joe run. You can't do that. That's not going to work. You just say shit to make people believe that you're fighting, but you're not fighting. You're fucking losers time after time. I think Joe had a genius strategy. I do too. And we've seen it before, whenever he was talking to Kevin McCarthy or Mike Johnson, he always got them to do what he wanted them to do. Joe is old, he's slow, but he's been in Congress for 50 years. He was a vice president for 8 years and a president for 4 years. There's nobody more experienced in Washington, D.C. today than Joe Biden. He may be slow, but he's a smart, wily motherfucker. Let's see here. What else we got? Hey, Rational Boomer, Mickey Blue. Hey, Mickey Blue. Don't interact with the trolls. The mods will handle them. Yes, that's absolutely true. My goal here is to get about an hour out of this. That's usually the point, hour to 15 minutes. And by then, it starts to get pretty heavy with the trolls. Positivity is back. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I was saying before. Something we haven't seen in the Democratic Party for a long time. That's positive energy. And that's what we need. That's what we need to have behind us going forward into the election in November. And we've got it now in a big way. It's pretty amazing how fast she got people backing her up. And for a time there was some question as to whether or not the leaders in Congress would back her. But they saw what was going on. They saw what was happening. They saw it was a rock rolling down the hill and they would just get run over if they didn't jump on board. So Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer got on board too. And I'm glad for that. She's got, a mandate from the Democratic Party. She's got enough delegates now to be named nominee. She's not officially the nominee yet. You have to go through that process. And I think they're going to do that on August 1st. Then we have the convention later in August. It's all working pretty well. And Republicans can try to do whatever they want to do to try to put up some hurdles, but they're constantly failing. Jesus says Musk pulled his money from Trump. Did he actually ever give him money? The word was that he was paying Donald Trump $50 million a month so that he would have J.D. Vance as his vice president. Apparently, J.D. and Elon are tech bros. But I think there's a little buyer's remorse right now for J.D. Vance. He's not coming out of this looking too good. He's dragging the Democratic Party down. Now, can he get rid of him? I suppose he can, but the problem is they went through the convention. They nominated J.D. Vance as VP. If they do try to get rid of him, it's going to be harder, not to mention the fact they're going to look stupid and they look like they failed. Would they be willing to do that, or will they just double down on J.D. Vance? I hope so. The honeybee. Funny, they want Joe to resign, which would make Harris president. Yeah, that's a good question. People were talking about this, and I did a TikTok. Why would the Republicans want Joe Biden to step down? Now, a lot of people are coming to my page, and I'm surprised by this, saying, well, if Joe steps down and Kamala becomes the president, then Mike Johnson is the vice president. That's not true. That's not true at all. That's not the way it's going to happen. What would happen is she would either leave the vice presidential space open for a little bit, but she would have to nominate or appoint a vice president. Now, if people are wondering how can that be, I'll give you an explanation. Back in the 70s, Richard Nixon had a vice president by the name of Spiro T. Agnew. Spiro T. Agnew ran into some legal issues and he resigned. So Richard Nixon then appointed Gerald Ford to be vice president. Then Richard Nixon stepped aside and Gerald Ford became the president, and he appointed Nelson Rockefeller as the vice president. All that happened in a short period of time, and never once was the Speaker of the House even close to entering the vice presidential space. I think the best way to explain it, and I'm not an expert on this, I think the point where a Speaker of the House could be named president is if something happened to both the president and the vice president at the same time. Somehow they were both taken out of the equation at the same time. Then an emergency situation, then the Speaker of the House would take the presidency, but clearly that's unlikely. Maybe he has immunity for presidential acts. Well, that's what I was going to get at. Why do they want Joe Biden to step down and have Kamala become the president? And I have some theories here. I have some theories about this. they've got a big problem. They've got their arguments for Joe Biden, but Joe Biden isn't a thing anymore. Joe Biden isn't the candidate. So they can talk shit about Joe Biden all they want, but Joe's not a problem anymore. Kamala is. Now they're going to try to blame Kamala for certain things, but they haven't planned for that. They hadn't strategized for that. The one thing I could think they're thinking is if Joe Biden steps out, Kamala is the president because she's where the buck stops. They can somehow, by osmosis, blame her for what came before her. That sounds crazy. That sounds stupid, but that's the fucking Republicans. And then there's one last thing that I think they're scared to death about with Joe Biden and why they'd like him out of the way. Joe Biden's 81 years old, soon to be 82 years old. He's coming to the end of his political career. He's not running for reelection. Motherfucker's got nothing to lose, and he's a smart old man. So, in addition to all that, he now has immunity, so he could do pretty much anything. Now, people will say, well, Joe will never do anything mean to the Republicans. He's not that kind of guy, and that is true. However, and this is where the Republicans are probably nervous. What if we come up to the election? Joe's the president. He's not running for reelection, but the Republicans try to pull some crazy shit. Well, then maybe on his way out, Joe Biden does some things to stop this fucking thing, to put some hurdles up in front of the Republicans. Or when we get to January 6th during the certification and they try to pull the bullshit that they did in 2021, well, Joe's got immunity. And this is going to be a problem for the Republicans. It's not like when Donald Trump was the president where they could get away with anything. They're not going to get away with anything at all with Joe Biden in charge, and give Joe a little bit of immunity, and they could be in for some fucking trouble. Joe needs to pardon his son. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. What the fuck? Do it after the election, though. Do it after the election. The other thing Joe's going to probably do is do some interesting shit after the election because they can't blame Kamala for it. And Joe can do whatever he wants. He can pardon whoever he wants. He can enact some president executive orders. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. And I have a feeling he might. Harris will trounce traitor Trump in November. MAGA is cooked. I have to agree with you. I said that Joe Biden would probably win in a big way, but I don't have any question about Kamala Harris. She is a different kind of candidate than Joe. Joe's a little more easygoing, a little more passive. And while Kamala has a good personality and is a decent human being and she's done a lot. She's got a lot on her resume. She's not the kind of person that she'd want to fuck with, because she'll come back, get in your face, and tear your shit up. Joe won't do anything with the immunity stuff until the last minute. Well, that would be the smart thing. Wait till after the election and then do whatever the fuck you want. I heard Biden is back at the White House and will address the nation tomorrow. That is true. Now, if you've been listening to right side media, or the Trump-la-fucks, they're trying to pass off the fact that he's deathly ill or he actually even died, which is so ridiculous and so pathetic. Yeah, Joe's back in the White House now. We saw him walk off the fucking plane. He's going to give a speech tomorrow. And you know what? That's probably going to get Kamala Harris another $100 million and more people backing her up. So it's going to be interesting when Joe sits there and gives a speech to the country. He's going to have a lot of people watching. He's going to have zero pressure, and he's going to be able to say whatever he wants. This will be a good thing to watch. Roy Cooper for VP. He's a good guy. He's a good prospect. My only concern about him is he's an older guy. And I think what somebody said before is get a VP that will appeal to the younger people, the millennials and the Gen Zs, you know? And I think that's a good idea. But, you know, if they picked Roy Cooper, he would be a fine candidate for vice president. What else we got here? Latinos for Harris. They say he's unalive. He's not. I saw him walking down the steps of a plane. He's going to give the best speech ever. I think that's true. He has the capacity. It's going to be something a la the State of the Union or probably better. Because you see, all these people say, see, he should have stepped aside. I don't think Joe wanted to step aside. I think he just took a look at all these things and said, okay, if it's going to be best for the country, I'm going to do it. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. But when he did it, he did the right thing. He endorsed Kamala Harris right away, and that set her off like a fucking rocket. Let's see here. GOP is going to waste taxpayers' monies for impeachment of Harris. Yeah, they wasted money on trying to impeach Joe. When is that going to happen? Just ridiculous. My son is 20, and let me tell you, him and all his friends are excited to vote. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think Kamala has really ignited a fire in young people, millennials and Gen Zs. She's a lot fresher face. She's smart. She's tough, but she's not, you can't dislike her. It's not like a Hillary Clinton thing. People like her. She's got a sense of humor, but she's tough as hell. You fuck with her, she's going to come back on you. I don't know if you remember when she was a senator and questioning Brett Kavanaugh in his approval hearing. She tore into his shit, and it didn't go well for him. Unfortunately, the Republicans made sure he was put in. Gavin Newsom would be a great VP. Yeah, he would be a great VP, and he might appeal to the young people. There's been some question as to whether or not a president and a VP can come from the same state. Kamala's from California, so is Gavin Newsom. I wouldn't be opposed to it if it were possible. I'm just not sure it's possible. Somebody smarter than me has to tell me what the actual rule is because I've heard it both ways. Susie Q says, can I be hopeful? Fuck yeah, you can be hopeful. You can always be hopeful, but we're on a roll now. I think I thought Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump, and I think Kamala Harris will beat Donald Trump in a big way. They've got a lot of attention, they've got a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, and people are shitting themselves on the Republican side. Giants boy, Don the Con, attention Trumpers, ask why your convicted felon in his hometown of NYC is DTC. Not sure I know what that means. Not sure I want to know what that means. I think he waited to see Kamala's numbers before he did. Some say Biden had bad performance was intentional. I don't think that's the case. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. I don't think he did it intentionally. I think he was tired. I think he was sick, and I think he's old. And that's what happens. I'm old. And if I'm sick, when I do podcasts or TikToks, it's dramatically different. Do you think Kamala would go after Trump's legal issues? Oh, yeah. She's already done it. She stood up in Wisconsin and said, listen, I've been a prosecutor. I've gone after fraudsters, cheaters. I've gone after sexual abusers. So I know Donald Trump's type. Yeah, she's going to go after all his shit over and over again. And I think you're going to see Kamala, who has a lot more energy and is pretty outspoken. You're going to see her all the time tearing into Donald Trump, and it's going to drive him fucking nuts. Andy Beshear is the best pick. Well, he could be. He's a Democratic governor from Kentucky. He's young. He has some good quotes against Donald Trump too. Miscellaneous one, rational boomer, question mark, what? Don't know what that means. Let's see here. JB Pritzker for VP. Well, I like him. He's doing a good job as governor of Illinois. However, he's a very wealthy guy and he's an older guy. Not that old. He's not as old as me. But again, I think we should try to appeal to the younger generation, to the millennials and the Gen Zs. All right. Can't be from the same state, 12th Amendment. Okay. So Kamala could not pick Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom is the kind of guy, he's smart and he's always said, no, I'm not going to go in the primaries. No, I'm not going to try to challenge Kamala Harris. He's willing to wait till 2028. He'll be a big prospect in 2028, and he's a young guy and he can do that. Who do you think should be her running mate? Every one of the people that they've named have been pretty good. Shapiro, Cooper, Bashar. They've even mentioned my own home state governor, uh, Tim Walz, who is an absolutely wonderful governor. He'd be a perfect guy for that. He's a good speaker. He doesn't have a lot of charisma, but he's pretty good. I don't know that he'd be the one they'd pick. Let's see, Shapiro or Kelly. Well, Mark Kelly is another option. He's a senator from Arizona. There is a Democratic governor. So if Mark Kelly leaves the Senate seat, the Democratic governor would appoint another Democrat. So we're safe. That's not a bad idea. He's a former astronaut. He's a little older than I'd like to see him, but he's not too old. Let's see here. What about Pete B? What about Pete B? Do you think his sexual preference may dissuade Christian voters? Well, Christian voters apparently don't vote much in the way of Democrats. Well, I should say the evangelicals. There are Christian voters, of course, in the Democratic Party, but they're real Christians. They don't look down their noses at people. At one point in time back in my history, I would say, well, I don't know if that would go. I think Pete Buttigieg is pretty well beloved around the country. People like him. He's a good talker. And that's a possibility. I think that's a distinct possibility. I think he's still a little young. He needs a little more time. He needs to be in the cabinet when Kamala wins. But I think he's a great prospect for the future as a president. Trump is really effed. Yes, he is. No question about it. Um, Kelly, border state, veteran, gun control, political violence. Yeah. Yeah, I think Mark Kelly is a great choice. I do. You know who I would like to see get in the mix somehow? And it might be tough because she's another black woman and people might get back against that. I would hope they wouldn't. But there is one black woman in this country that may be one of the best politicians we have, and she's not in an elected office. And that is a shame. And that's why she needs to be used in the upcoming cabinet with Kamala Harris. But I'm talking about Stacey Abrams down in Georgia. She is absolutely brilliant. She's great at what she's done. She's tried to run for governor, and that didn't play out. They got to do something with her because she is absolutely brilliant. Other people have suggested Beto O'Rourke from Texas, and he would be a good choice too. The only thing I'm concerned about with Beto is he's lost two pretty big races, and just to have that hanging over your head, it doesn't necessarily bode well if you're going to put him as the VP. You want somebody with a good track record. And I'm not saying Beto doesn't have a good track record. He's a great guy. He'd be a great candidate. He'd be a great governor, but he lost those two races, and I'm afraid that might take some of the shine off it. Dem, stop buying Tesla. Musk pulled donation. Yeah, that's it. But, Elon Musk always asks, like, I don't care if I lose money. Well, he's losing a lot of money on Twitter and Tesla and shit. Yeah, Elon Musk is not going to fare well, and he's going to lose his shit when Kamala wins. Did you hear about Trump wanting to dump JD Vance? Yeah, I've heard about that. He's got some buyer's remorse. That's distinctly possible that they would try to dump him. It's going to be harder to do, though, because he's already been elected the nominee. So it might take some doing. And if they do it, they're going to look stupid. They're going to look foolish. And it's just going to look like them being panicky and pathetic. How can anyone vote for Trump is beyond me. I agree with you. How can anybody vote for Trump from 2017 to now? That is beyond me. How do I feel Kamala will do in the swing states? I think she'll do pretty well, actually. because it's not like a typical election. There's been a big rush of energy and a big rush of support. She offers up something that we didn't have before with Joe Biden. She's a younger woman. She's a strong warrior of a woman. And now Donald Trump is the old man, the one talking crazy shit, the one going off on tangents and slurring words. So I think she'll do pretty well in those states. Um, Musk allegedly pulled his 45 million a month donation. Have you heard anything about that? No, I haven't. Just a little bit before I came on. I don't know that he even really gave him 45 million. As far as I know, uh, Donald Trump just told him, "Tell him you're doing that," so it looks really good. It sounds like something Donald Trump will do. But if Elon is pulling his money and he was actually giving money, that tells you something. That tells you the Republicans are starting to lose confidence now. How do you think RFK will do? I think RFK will be a non entity. I don't think he'll be on the ballot. There was some audio that came out that had him talking to Donald Trump, and RFK was asking if he could join uh, Donald Trump's campaign and if he could get something out of it. Um, RFK is a joke. RFK is an unhinged anti vaccine conspiracy theorist. He's a non entity in this upcoming election. Has Florida become a swing state? It might have. You know, that's the thing about Florida. Florida has always been red as of late, but now on the ballot, they're going to have the abortion question. And the vast majority of people in Florida support Roe v. Wade. So a lot of people are going to be coming out, and that might mean more Democratic votes. So it could become a swing state. It definitely could. Do you see BLM not backing Kamala? I don't know. It's possible, I suppose, but you know, there's going to be people that back her and people that don't. She's got a lot of people backing her right now. I'm just going to focus on those people um, uh, that support her. There's a lot of them. Have you seen the protest in Washington today? There's a lot of non-Dem voters. How do we capture? I think there's people out there protesting about Netanyahu coming to town. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. It's going to be interesting when Netanyahu comes to town. He's going to talk to Joe Biden and he's going to talk to Kamala. That's where Joe might be in a position to finally say, okay, enough is enough. Pull out, get this thing fucking over, or else. He's not running for reelection now, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Maybe he can try to pull that off. Um, he's been very helpful to Israel, and that's kind of his job. They are an ally. We kind of have to do that. But maybe he can afford to be tougher now that he's not running for reelection. That would be a cool thing if Joe Biden were able to get peace in the Middle East before the election. That would be fucking huge for Kamala. And he'd have to get Kamala in the mix a little bit. She's going to be talking to Netanyahu too. All right. Moving along. Yeah. Greg Kaplan reminds you, if you listen to the TikToks, if you come to the lives, I encourage you to check out the Rational Boomer podcast. It's about an hour and a half long. I do it every day. A lot of times I have listeners who are guests. If you're a listener and want to be a guest, all you have to do is send me an email at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Um, and, uh, and that's all you need to do. And we'll set it up from there. So Merrick Garland and the rest of the cabinet now will leave January 20th too. Presumably, I mean, when Kamala wins, she'll probably have her own cabinet. And Merrick Garland, I'm pretty sure, is not going to be sticking around. By the way, if you want to listen to the Rational Boomer podcast, all you have to do is go to Spotify for the audio version or YouTube for the video version. Just search Rational Boomer and you'll find it no problem. All right. Donors have given over 100 million to Harris. That's true. In like 36 hours, a record amount was collected, $100 million. And I got to tell you, that's probably pissing off Donald Trump right about now. He's very competitive when it comes to ratings and money. It's going to be very interesting. It's also going to be very interesting to hear what the ratings are during the Democratic convention. And I think they're going to be up big. Remember, the Republican convention was down 20% from the last convention. He couldn't crow about the big ratings that he's always getting. Let's see here. You know nothing about Kennedy. I know enough to know I don't like the motherfucker. You want to vote for Kennedy? Go for it. Would love to see Florida blue. DeSantis will cry. Oh, yeah, I would love to see that too. And I'll tell you this, if Florida does go blue, it's over for the Republicans. They lose Florida, they're fucking done. What about Governor Tim Walz? Yep, Tonya, he's my governor too. He would be a great choice. He would be a great choice. He's in the top 5. I know that. I wouldn't have a problem with her picking him. I think he's very sharp. I think he's probably one of the best governors that Minnesota's ever seen. He's like Joe Biden, where he's gotten a lot of stuff done with a very tight legislature. So, yeah, I think he's a great choice. Did you see the video of Trump today? His ear shows no injury. Yeah. We know that they had the Secret Service lady in to testify about what happened. She didn't answer any questions. It was a bipartisan agreement that she should resign, and she did resign. I've always said with Donald Trump, there's going to be an investigation about this. If we find there's any fishy stuff there's going to be trouble, and there's probably going to be some indictments because of it, accessory to murder and those sorts of things. But you could quell my concerns about whether it was real or not by just showing me the fucking ear or showing me a doctor's report as to what they did. Because after the shooting, his ear was all bloody. I could see it was fully intact. And here's the thing, I'm not a weapons expert, but I do know this. If you're shot with a high velocity bullet coming from an AR-15 at 130 yards and it even nicks your ear, it's going to take off a big chunk or all your ear. It didn't do that. It didn't even look like it took off anything. So you have to believe that he wasn't hit with a bullet. Just a small scratch from teleprompter glass. Yeah, that's possible. I don't think Halt Walls will help. I think if she chooses him, she would lose the state of Minnesota. How do you figure that? I live in Minnesota. The state of Minnesota is never going to vote for Donald Trump. I will tell you that right now. Are you voting for Kamala now? Absolutely, I'm voting for Kamala. And I've said that from the beginning. People say, well, you yelled at us for telling Joe to step aside. Yeah, I fucking did. Joe's been the best president we've had. You treated him like shit. They should have stuck with Joe, but if they don't stick with Joe, I said, I'm cool with Kamala. I said, but do not jump over Kamala because that would be disastrous. So while Joe's not there, I'm happy as hell that Kamala is, and I'm amazed by the support that's around her. Let's see. The doctor did just speak on it, said it was nothing. I haven't heard that, Glenda. I heard that Ronnie Jackson said some bullshit, but you can't listen to him because he's a psycho and he's a pathological liar. But I'll be checking for that. It'd be great if the doctor said it was nothing. Were Trump bandages made by the My Pillow guy? Well, I think that's distinctly possible. That may be a new business venture for Mike Lindell. He's going to need one because he pretty much sent his business down the shitter. Lane Best says, North Carolina here, I pray we flip. We're all praying you flipped. And I think there's a definite chance. TikTok Rocker, I missed Old Soul last week. Will she be back this week? Yeah, she should be on tomorrow. The reason you missed her last week is because she was down in Texas and she was assisting with women that were victims of domestic violence and having to deal with the after effects of the hurricane. I mean, that's who Old Soul is. She's a fucking angel. She's running all over, helping people she doesn't know. That's just who she is. But that's why she wasn't on last week. But I think we've set it up. She'll be on tomorrow. Looking forward to it. We missed her. I absolutely love your commentary, Dolly. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. She's going to be a great president. You know what? I think she is going to be a great president. She's exactly what we need at this point. Good grief. Minnesota was the only state Mondale won. It's safe. Yeah, it's safe. I've lived here all my life. They aren't going to vote for fucking Trump, even if Trump thinks he can win. I think they really wanted to jump over Harris. Yeah, I think they did. But see, Joe did the smart thing. He said, I'll leave. And then he endorsed Kamala. And then this huge outpouring of support came. Those people that wanted to jump over her now didn't dare to do it. This is where Joe is sharp. He could have not endorsed Kamala and just said, let's figure it out at the convention. But he didn't. He said, I endorse her. And that was the important move by Joe Biden. That was a brilliant move by Joe Biden. And it's got some people pissed off, I'm sure, but they got to be feeling better when this huge outpouring of support for Kamala. They weren't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that, but we got to ride this fucking wave all the way to November because it's working for us. Somebody says, yes, we didn't want to push Biden out, his choice. Well, it was his choice, but there were plenty of people I was disappointed in that did try to push him out. They couldn't make him make the decision to leave. He had to make that decision. But when you've got everybody coming at him from different angles and people coming with polls that say he's definitely going to lose, when I questioned the polls in the first place, he was being pressured pretty hard. And those people that put that pressure on Joe Biden, even though it's worked out all right with him stepping aside, I'm still not happy with those motherfuckers. I don't care. You don't treat a president like Joe Biden like that. And then all of a sudden go, oh, he's such a great man. You spent all this time kicking his ass. You were like vultures picking at his bones, and now you want to tell us how much you feel good about Joe Biden. Fuck you. Vincent Spector says, I bet you don't vote for her. Yeah, I'll bet you. I'll vote for her in a minute. Why would I not vote for her? Fucking people. Obama was the best, but we love Joe. You know what? Obama was good, but Joe was better in terms of getting things done. Joe and Obama had the same problems that the Republicans were constantly pushing against them. Obama did a good job pushing back, but Joe did even a better job with the same kind of problems. Biden will always be my favorite. Yeah, I've said it before. Joe Biden, based on what he's done and the kind of man he is probably the greatest president in my lifetime. And I was born in 1960. It started with Dwight D. Eisenhower, then John F. Kennedy, and on down the road. John F. Kennedy was a good president. He was only there a short time. But Joe got more done than anybody. I think President Harris is going to be, oh, wait a minute here. I think President Harris is going to be the next President Obama female version. You know, other than she's black, I think there's going to be a lot of differences between Obama and um, and Kamala. I think she's a little more left, and I think she's a little more aggressive. Biden's a great guy, class act, a great president, but Kamala's going to be hitting harder. And we're in different times now. It wasn't quite like this when Obama was in. We're very divided at this point, and it's a very confrontational type time. Obama maybe not fit that mold. He was funny, he was clever, he was smart, he was articulate, but he wasn't really a warrior like Kamala is. Another important reason for Kamala to win is SCOTUS. I agree. That's one of the first things we've got to tend to. We've got to straighten out the Supreme Court because without a solid Supreme Court that people trust, it's hard to maintain a democracy. Obama learned from the best. Joe did more for the working class than any modern president. I think that's a fair thing to say. I think that's true. No question about it. I think Kamala will be better than both Obama and Biden. That's a possibility. Because again, and it's not because she's necessarily a better candidate than Obama and and Biden. It's that she won't have the same things to deal with, I presume. Like I say, with Obama and with Biden, they had this constant pushback by the Republicans and these MAGA fucks or the predecessors, the Tea Party to MAGA. The MAGA party is going to be pretty much disbanded and destroyed after this election. There's a lot of things that we didn't know during Obama and Biden that we do know now, and those things will be addressed. So we'll be in more of a free form situation with Kamala than we were with Obama and Biden. Joe was the only one on the picket line for UAW. Yeah, only president, but Kamala was there too. A heartfelt moment when Joe told Kamala, "You got this, kid. I love you." Yeah, I heard that. You know, that's the one thing that really got me too. It got me kind of emotional because that's something we haven't been hearing in politics for some time, a camaraderie, support, belief, trust, and all those sorts of things. What I like about this, it seems like Biden and Kamala have a close relationship. You know, in a lot of cases, a president and a vice president don't even like each other. Kennedy and Johnson didn't like each other. Clearly, Pence and Trump didn't like each other. I think Biden and Kamala had a very good relationship, and he felt strongest that she was the one to carry the torch the next 4 years. And I think he feels confident in what she's doing. And what she did today or yesterday or today in the speech in Wisconsin, this told me a lot about her. She repeated what Joe Biden is saying: build up the middle class, build out the middle class, and make the rich people pay more taxes, pay reasonable amount of taxes. She's ready to carry on what Joe Biden has been doing. And I think that's absolutely important. She said something too that I thought should be a hashtag that we should see everywhere. Um, and it's based on what Donald Trump says: America first, America first. Kamala said something different. She said, the people first. And that says a lot about what she's thinking and what she plans to do. And that's going to help her win. Steffi says Biden was crapped on. He deserved much kinder exit. Yeah. And that's why people will say to me, well, you talk shit about me because I wanted him out, but now you're voting for Kamala. Yeah, of course I'm voting for Kamala. And am I going to say that you were right for shitting on Joe Biden? No. Did I think Joe Biden could have won? Absolutely. But when Joe made the choice to step aside and Kamala got on board and the outpouring of support, sure, I'm with Kamala. It's not about being wrong or right. It's about being fucking decent. Glenda says, I'm very upset with how Joe was treated, still supporting Kamala no matter what. That's how I feel too. I mean, we're in a battle here. We're in a war. We got to win this. I've told you before, we can worry about the next 4 years, but most importantly, we got to focus on the problem at hand. We've got to win in November. And then after that, we can decide how we fix all the things that the Republicans fucked up. Now I'm feeling even stronger with Kamala Harris in there. The reason I'm feeling stronger about her, because one of the things that Joe can't do that he needs to do with Donald Trump. And it's not because he's old, it's just because that's Joe's personality. He's not as combative. He's not somebody who's going to get in somebody's face and push back. And with Donald Trump, we're dealing with a bully. Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. That doesn't work with bullies. Sometimes you have to match their energy. You got to slap the taste out of their mouth. And if you can do that, you can get them to back up. Joe's not that kind of guy, whether he was old or young. Kamala, don't fuck with Kamala. She'll slap the taste out of your mouth. I believe the DNC will be about Joe, past, present, and the future. Absolutely. If Joe says Harris, we all should vote for Harris. Yeah, and that's the other thing. My support or confidence in Joe Biden hasn't changed at all since Kamala Harris has become the presidential candidate. And most importantly, because I trust and respect Joe, when he says vote for Kamala, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And he doesn't even have to tell me that. I'm smart enough to see she's a great candidate. She's the one person other than Joe Biden that can continue to try to save this country and the possible loss of democracy. Gen Z loves Kamala. That helps a ton. Yeah, the young people seem to like Kamala, and as well they should. They're seeing younger people and a tougher person. I'll tell you this is why Donald Trump gets a lot of support. People like somebody who's going to be a fighter, who'll go in there and mix it up. And that's how they perceive Donald Trump, even though he's a loser. Now, the fact that we've got a fighter, somebody who'll go there and mix it up, young people are here for it. They've struggled through this for 8 years. Listen to the chaos and the bullshit. They want out of it. We're all tired of it. And we need a fighter to do that. And that's who Kamala Harris is. I think he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize from VP Harris when she becomes president. Well, that's a possibility, especially if something happens with the Israeli Gaza thing. If he's part and parcel to getting that settled, he'd certainly be in line for it. Yari Acosta says Trump is now the oldest nominee for the presidency. Yeah, that's exactly right. The Democrats took their one talking point away, that Joe's old, can't finish a sentence. Now, the only old man in the race is Donald Trump, and that motherfucker is unhinged. He can't finish sentences. He goes off on tangents. He slurs words and sentences. I have to wonder if the media is going to pay as much attention to Donald Trump for those things as they did with Joe Biden. I doubt it, but I would hope so. And I think it's important for us is every time Donald Trump speaks, we need to point out his flaws like they did with Joe Biden. I mean, with Joe Biden, anytime he did anything, they were waiting to pounce on the littlest thing. We should maybe do the same thing with Donald Trump. 300 million. She has 300 million. That's 100 million per month. Donations still coming in. Well, yeah, that's the thing. The campaign is only going another 3 months. She's got a lot of money for those 3 months. Terry Blount says you seem too rational for TikTok. I don't know about that. If you don't like to hear it on TikTok, go to the podcast. Trump has obvious signs of dementia. Biden is old, but don't see dementia signs. I'd have to agree. I think she needs to make Jack Smith her attorney general once she's in. That's a possibility. Ed, who's been on my show many times, thinks Amy Klobuchar would be a good attorney general. And I think that's true. I think at this point, anybody would be a better attorney general than Merrick Garland. I know he's a talented jurist. He's a man of integrity. But he too is like Biden. He's not an aggressive or assertive guy. He's worried about how things appear. The bottom line is we have a rule of law. And if you do something wrong, you should be held accountable. And he's too worried about, is it going to look political? Is it going to be a problem? We need somebody just to go after it and make people pay that commit the crimes. Unlike with Biden, I don't think we should push the felon out. We need to remove him with our vote. Absolutely. And honestly, short of Donald Trump keeling over or just breaking down emotionally, he will be the nominee. The Republicans really need him to be the nominee. Even if they know he's going to lose, they need him as a nominee, and here's why. Because if Donald Trump is not the nominee, his cult will probably not vote at all. And if they don't vote at all, it will affect all the down ballot candidates as well. So they would lose the presidency and all the down ballot, which I'm here for. I'm good with that. But I think they're smart enough to know better. Let's see here. Became the number 141th member on the team. A lot of money and our energy will sustain. Absolutely. Yeah, this isn't going to die down. I've said this too before about this election. It isn't as much about the candidates or the personalities of the candidates. It's more about how many people are afraid of Donald Trump and hate Donald Trump. Keep in mind, in 2020, Joe Biden got 81 million votes. We didn't know how Joe Biden would do. He got those 81 million votes, not because he was the greatest candidate ever. It was because they were terrified of Donald Trump. In 2022, they thought there'd be a red wave. But again, all the endorsees that Donald Trump endorsed, they pushed back and they lost because, again, they were terrified of Donald Trump and him getting back in control. So now, if you look at those two situations, do you think people are any less hateful or terrified of Donald Trump in 2024 than they were in 2022 or 2020? I think even more so. That's why I believe that we're looking at a landslide here, something that the media is not going to say because they want you to keep coming and keep being concerned and worried enough to watch their shit. But I think when it all shakes out, this is going to be a devastating blow to the Republicans and Donald Trump. We have to stop the 2025 and Agenda 47. Well, that's very easy to do. Keep attaching it to Donald Trump and make sure he doesn't get reelected, and make sure every other Republican that's tied to Project 2025 doesn't get reelected. That's the point here. It's on us to do that. So we need to fucking do that. Is it that Elon Musk dipped on Trump? I heard that here pretty much. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, these people aren't very loyal, and Donald Trump will lose his shit when he finds out. Yes, call out Trump for his imperfections. Yeah, we should put him under a microscope and expose and embarrass him at every turn. That's the thing that's going to get him unhinged. And when he gets unhinged, he makes very serious mistakes. Nell says, I haven't seen people this energized in a long time. No, neither have I. Some people have compared it to 2008 with Obama, and I think it's even more so now. It seems like there's more at risk right now than there was in 2008. And frankly, Obama did wondrous things with getting us out of that recession and bringing us back to a place where we were normal and being a class act. But because of the problems we're having now, this is even more serious. And I think this is why people are so joyous. They're tired. They're exhausted from all the chaos and the negative shit every day. They see a light at the end of the tunnel with Kamala, and they're praying that it plays out. Melinda says, I love to listen to you. Make perfect sense. Thank you. Well, thank you, Melinda. I appreciate that. Andy Bashir, good VP choice. A lot of boxes with a diminishing Dem Senate. Yeah, I don't think the Senate's going to diminish of Dems. I think the Dems are going to pick up some spots. But Andy Bashir is a good choice. He's a younger guy. He's a smart guy. He's a Democratic governor in Kentucky, which is amazing in its own right. Biden for Secretary of State. Nah. Let Biden retire and enjoy what time he has left with his family and friends. He's got 50, 60 years in the job. Let him relax. Do you have a political background? You're so knowledgeable. I don't really have a political background. I worked in radio for many years. I've always been intrigued by politics, and I just have a different way of looking at things. When I see something, I got to dig out all the facts. I look at everything at every angle and I analyze it. And when I come out here and people say, "Oh, you make me feel better," it's really in a process where I'm trying to make myself feel better. I see the problems and then I try to figure out the problems and then I talk about it. It's as much to make me feel better as it is for you to feel better. She'll be able to handle superpower like Russia and North Korea and China? Absolutely. She'll be able to handle that, no problem. She will shred him in a debate. She's ready. Well, Donald Trump's already trying to back out or make excuses for the debate. And then he said, we can have multiple debates. I'm sure Kamala would love that. She'd love to kick his ass multiple times. You keep me calm. Thank you. I think that's important. I think when people get emotional, they overreact, and it always goes wrong when you do that. So it's always best to stay calm, make good choices, and you'll end up better in the end. And if I help you to stay more calm, I am I am grateful for that opportunity. I'm honored by that. Terry Blount says Buttigieg, smart guy, Secretary of State. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. He's going to play a bigger role in the next administration. I'm almost certain of that. Mark Kelly would be a great VP. Yeah, I think Mark Kelly would be as good a choice as anybody. Heard Social Security advised DJT no extra security outdoor venues cannot supply no money. That's possible. That's possible. And what's Donald Trump going to do if he can't do outdoor rallies? MF says you're a researcher. I get that. LOL. Well, I'm not really a researcher. I'm just obsessively curious. When I see something that interests me, I want to know all about it. And I look at it from different angles. I get it from different sources, hopefully to corroborate things. And then when I see the problem, my head works weird. I'm thinking about all the problems and all the angles until I come up with what I think is the answer. Um, Jack Smith for Attorney General. He wouldn't be a bad choice. I think there might be some better ones though. You make us all feel better. Thank you, Lane Beth. Buttigieg, yeah. My spouse is a Trumper and flipped out today about immigrants voting in drop boxes. Fox News, yeah. Well, if you're listening to Fox News, you don't know fuck all about fuck all. I think we've established that. So, yeah, I don't know. I Sage, I give you credit. You're married to a Trump humper. I do not know how you do it. I've been married 40 years. My wife and I are in line with all the political things. And even still, it can be tough because men and women think totally the opposite. They think totally differently. If you have a Trump humper in your home and you have to listen to that shit, well, you're a brave woman for being able to tolerate that. I don't know. I have some people in my family that are Trump humpers, and I don't even talk to them anymore. I think it's as much as they don't want to talk to me as I don't want to talk to them. So I get it. It's pretty hard thing, and I hope after the election and things settle down and Donald Trump finally gets sentenced and everybody finally realizes that Donald Trump is a fucking criminal, that hopefully some of these people will back off and you won't have to listen to the shit that you normally listen to. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this speech that Joe Biden's giving tomorrow. He's actually a very good speaker. And when he's in a position to give those speeches, he can be very persuasive and very inspirational. Um, doggone, doggone Bob. What about Cory Booker for VP? Well, actually, that was my wife's choice too. I like Cory Booker. She would be great. Okay, now hold on a second here. I got to do something. Every time I go past an hour, um, TikTok makes me do this puzzle as if, there's nothing going on here and I got to prove I'm still here. Ah, Jesus Christ. I don't know why they do this. All right, verification complete. Now I can keep talking. That's what happens. You do this for about an hour, then TikTok comes on, says, "We haven't noticed any activity. You've got to do this little puzzle piece to prove you're still here." Now I know why they do that, because there's people that do TikTok lives and just sit back and don't say anything and just let it run. I don't know why they do that. It's fucking boring as hell. But clearly we've got some activity going on here. Sailor Mail says, my first voting election was 2016. I'm tired of this hostile political culture. I miss the Romney rep. That really explains it. Thank you for answering me. No problem. If I were Trump, I'd be scared too. Well, he's terrified right now. He doesn't know what to do. That's why he's trying to tell people, well, it's not fair that you switched to Kamala. Well, it's perfectly fair. It's perfectly legal, and you can threaten all the lawsuits you want, but it's not going to do any good. Kamala's coming, and she's going to kick your ass. Just saying. How about from Shapiro from PA as the VP? Yeah, I think he's probably the odds on favorite. He would be a good choice. He could possibly bring Pennsylvania to the table, which would be a big deal for Kamala. He's a young guy, he's a smart guy, and people love him. So, yeah, I think he'd be a great choice. NC Governor Roy Cooper as VP. I think he'd be a good choice too. The only issue I have with him is that he's an older guy. And I think we want to appeal to the millennials and the Gen Z. Um, Roy Cooper. What about Cory Booker? Boomer, love your stuff, dude. Thank you. Thank you, Peter Jr. Hey, Mike, Tim Walz is under consideration for VP. What do you think? I think he's qualified to be a great VP. He's done an amazing job here in Minnesota. He's done in Minnesota what Joe has done with the country. He'd be a great choice. I don't know that he has the charisma or that Minnesota brings enough along. I think Kamala's going to win Minnesota without any problem. So they don't need him for that, but he would be an excellent choice. I'd hate to see us lose Governor Walz, though, because I like the guy. Kamala should revoke Elon's security clearance and subsidies. He cannot be trusted. Well, Kamala's not president yet, but you know who is? Joe Biden. He's got nothing to lose and he's got immunity. So, from your mouth to Joe's ears. Kamala's speech today was incredible to take down Trump. Yeah, absolutely. And she did exactly what I hoped Joe Biden would do. Tell your story, inspire people, and then go kick Donald Trump's ass because it will drive Donald Trump nuts. She's doing exactly what needs to be done, and she's damn good at it. Vance is losing voters for them the moment he opened his mouth. Yeah, J.D. Vance was a poor choice. This was a Donald Trump decision. He thought he was a young guy. He had a book. He's going to be popular. He didn't bother to look at his background and see what kind of piece of shit he is. He is exactly what Donald Trump is trying to run away from. So to make him the vice president or the vice presidential candidate is absolutely ridiculous. But this isn't the first time that Donald Trump fucked up. Somebody says, I'm guessing they'll cry rigged. Yeah, they will. The big difference, though, is that Donald Trump isn't the president. We've heard it all before, and it's going nowhere. A great captain says, you can stop talking about Newsom. He can't be on the ticket with her because he's from the same state as Kamala. He's not going to be the VP. Shazzy is probably with him too, but his issue is also being West Coast. Yeah. Jackie Johnson sounds plausible. Jackie Johnson. I know the name, but I can't picture her or him. Shapiro makes more sense. Yeah, he does make a lot of sense in this situation. Isn't Vance locked in no matter due to the convention being over? I think he is locked in, but it's really a Republican matter. And you know, Donald Trump, he loves to change rules and he will panic. I think he is locked in. I think if they were to kick him loose, it would not only be hard to do, but it would make them look stupid. So my thinking is that they won't do that. Is Jeffrey still going to be speaker after what he did to Biden? Yeah, he'll still be the speaker. He'll still be the speaker because he's the minority leader in the House. And when the House is taken over by the Republican or by the Democrats, he'll naturally be the Speaker of the House. I'm not happy with Hakeem Jeffries did. Of course, yesterday, Hakeem Jeffries then endorsed Kamala Harris. I always liked Hakeem Jeffries. I think he'll be a great Speaker of the House, but I'm a little disappointed on the part he played in this whole thing. Angelots, hi Boomer, hey Angelots. Somebody else saying Mark Kelly. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What do you do if you have a family member that is Donald Trump's support? How do you deal with that? I don't. I have a couple of people that are Donald Trump supporters, and I haven't talked to them in probably 3 or 4 years, 3 years. I haven't talked to them. It's unfortunate, but you can't get through to these people. You can't debate with them. You can't negotiate with them. They're just unable to hear it. And here's the thing people say, well, when Donald Trump is out of the mix, then you guys can come together and forgive one another. I don't know that I can forgive somebody that supported Donald Trump, somebody that tried to overthrow this country, somebody who tried to make this country worse for my kids and grandkids. There's only so many things I can forgive, and that isn't one of them. Ohio here, we hate Vance. I'm not surprised. Kamala and Joe will put their heads together and pick an appropriate running mate. Yeah, that's the one thing you have to remember. Joe's mind is still working. He's slow. Joe's going to be a wonderful advisor to Kamala as they go forward in this campaign. And even after she becomes president, I have a feeling that Joe's going to be on speed dial with Kamala. What does Biden having immunity mean? Well, you remember that Supreme Court case that came out. They were applying it to Donald Trump, and we're talking about immunity for a president so he could try to get out of one of his cases. And they decided that immunity was for only official acts. But when the Supreme Court was talking to Donald Trump's lawyers, they said, does that mean like if a president had SEAL Team 6 shoot an opponent, would that be an official act? Donald Trump's lawyers said, yeah, it could be. It could be. So if Donald Trump has that immunity, so does Joe Biden because he's the sitting president. That gives him a lot of options. I know they don't like the idea that while they were trying to save Donald Trump's life, they gave Joe Biden a lot of rope. Hamlet says, love Biden, total respect for his decision and betterment of the country over personal ambition. Yep, that's a great man. That's a great president, something we don't see out of Republicans typically. There are still gifts Biden can give us. Yeah, there's a lot of things he can do between now and November, actually January. Trump is all lies and doesn't care about you or anyone, only himself. That's absolutely true. And these Republicans who haven't figured that out yet are fucking idiots. Terry Blount says Hunter Biden, a free man, that will make MAGA throw up. Well, now here's the thing. Maybe Hunter Biden's already free because you remember what's going on down in Florida. Judge Cannon put into question the special counsel that is prosecuting Donald Trump down there. She's questioning whether it's constitutionally right to have a special counsel doing the prosecution. Well, that's totally ridiculous, and that's going to get overturned by the 11th Circuit, and she'll probably get kicked out. But remember, Hunter Biden was prosecuted by a special counsel too. So if in Cannon's mind and Donald Trump's mind, special counsels don't count, then you've got to let Hunter Biden go. Do you think it's possible we'll get both houses in November? I do think it's possible because of the fear that people have of Donald Trump and Republicans. I think it's a distinct possibility. I think we're going to win a pretty big majority in the House. We should at the very least maintain, if not expand by a seat or two in the Senate. I think it's absolutely important that we get the House and the Senate and Kamala Harris, because for the next 2 years, we can get a lot of shit done, just like Joe Biden did his first 2 years. Why was Jeffries disappointing? Because he's one of the ones that jumped on board that was pressuring Joe Biden to step aside. I just think Joe Biden deserved to be treated better, and I thought these people would treat him better. That is disappointing to me. Now that we've gone to Kamala and things are better, people are saying, well, see, I was right. We should have done that to Joe. No, you shouldn't have done that to Joe. That was bullshit. I'm glad Kamala is the candidate now, and I'm excited about Kamala, but I was never going to do that shit to Joe Biden. He's been one of the greatest presidents we've ever seen, and to treat him like that is fucking shameful. Even if it turned out good, That was shameful for people to do that. And Jeffries was part of that. He backed out of it quickly, but he did do it. I don't know that Biden is slow. This actually seems like a mastermind move, like a chess game. Well, you never know. In American politics, it could be virtually anything. Jenna Ellis just came out with more women who were paid off. Jenna Ellis did? I thought she was still stumping for Trump. Is Barack Obama eligible to be VP? I'm not sure if he's eligible. No, he's not eligible. Because if he was VP and something happened to um, Kamala Harris, he wouldn't be eligible to be president again. Obama's not going to want that job. Obama's doing fine. He's making money. He did his time. He did a great job. He's just going to relax too. Republicans must be scrambling for a new message. Oh yeah, they're scrambling all right, and they aren't doing too well at this point. Biden said he would be a one-term president. He did say that. Well, he said he would be a transitional president, and that suggested he'd be a one-term president because of his age. And I was all for that. I thought after the 2020 election, I said he shouldn't run in 2024 because he's too old. But the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump decided to run again, and Joe was trying to do the right thing. He said, I beat Donald Trump once. We got to beat him again. I'm the best guy to do it. Now, if they were going to kick Joe Biden out, they should have done it a year or 2 years ago. That would have made everything better. Partly that's on Joe Biden, and partly that's on the Democrats. It's just when you do something with 4 months left, it is a very scary situation. Thankfully, in this case, it's turning out positively. It wouldn't necessarily turn out that way, but it did with the outpouring of support for Kamala Harris. Let's see here. Hey, Boomer, you rock. Thank you. You rock too. Thank you very much. Nikki Haley voters are now pulling for Harris. Yeah, that's right. There are organizations that supported Nikki Haley and are now going toward Kamala Harris. You know, the thing about it is a lot of people saw these primaries where 15, 20% went for Nikki Haley, even though she wasn't on the ballot. What you have to understand is those weren't votes for Nikki Haley. Those were votes against Donald Trump. So those are up for grabs. And we're seeing that Kamala Harris is picking some of them up. Let's see here. Will Trump be able to run again? Well, if he loses, he could technically run in 2028. I don't think he'll be around. He'll either be in jail or no longer with us. So I wouldn't worry about that. And besides, if Kamala Harris does a great job the next 4 years, she's almost a shoo-in for the 28 to 32 period. When Trump loses, will this put an end to Trumpleflux? Yeah, I think so. I mean, after you've gone 8 years plus of constant losing. I mean, Donald Trump won 2016, but we know he cheated because he was convicted of such. But since that time, he hasn't done much winning. Not in 2018, not in 2020, not in 2022. If he loses in 2024, the Republicans have two things they need to do. They need to kick Donald Trump to the curb because he's a loser. He's of no value to them. And then they have to figure out a way to recreate the Republican Party because as a MAGA group, there's just no money in it. They have no power because they lost again. How do you feel about Roy Cooper? I think Roy Cooper would be a great VP candidate. He's an older man, and I think we need somebody younger to get the younger vote. I mean, if he gets picked, I think he'd be a great vice president. I think he's fine. But I think if you're trying to get the younger generations, you need somebody younger in that position. Josh Shapiro, yeah, Josh Shapiro's a good possibility. How do you feel about Bashir? I think Bashir is a great candidate too. He's young, he's articulate, he's well liked. Do you think there'll be another uprising if Trump loses? I feel like he's already trying. Well, he's been trying, but there's not going to be an uprising because there's a vast difference between 2024 and 2021. Donald Trump was the president of the United States. He was able to protect these people. Joe Biden's the president now, and they will not be protected. And it could be a mess if they tried to do this again. And besides that, we've always kept hearing about, oh, the Civil War, and they're coming out. They said you better watch out if you indict Donald Trump, and nothing happened. Oh, you better not convict Donald Trump, or there's going to be a civil war. We convict Donald Trump, and nothing happens. So, yeah, there isn't going to be a mass attack by Trumplafucks. They're bullies. They make threats, but they never follow through with them because they're cowards. I really like Tim Walz in Minnesota. I do too. While I agree about Trump until he no longer requires oxygen, we won't be rid of him. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. I think his power and his money will be gone after the election, but he's like that yappy little dog. He'll never shut up, and it's just a matter of anybody still pays attention to him. And I think a lot of people won't be paying attention to him after that, after he's failed again. I predict in the next 2 weeks, Obama will do a rally with Harris. I think that's a good bet. Obama's going to stick his nose in this campaign, and he's going to be very helpful. And he could very well do a rally with Kamala Harris. I think it would be a good idea. Bernie deserves something, but I'm not sure it's VP. Yeah. You got to remember, Bernie's as old as Joe Biden. You're not going to make him a VP. He's not even a Democrat. He's an independent. I like Bernie too, but he's getting up there in age, and he's a senator, and I don't know that you'll see him in the cabinet. They have been threatening civil war since '08. Yeah, they have. Bernie, we would get universal health care. Well, I tell you what, if you vote for Kamala Harris and get the majority in the House and the Senate, we're probably going to get universal health care with or without Bernie. Bernie will probably be backing it as a senator, but I don't think we need to put him in a position of VP or president or anything to get that done. I think that's on the checklist for Kamala Harris, and it was on the checklist for Joe Biden. But again, with the Republicans' control of the House, it's impossible to get much done. What can Biden do with his immunity? Can he pardon Hunter Biden? Well, he doesn't need the immunity to pardon Hunter Biden. He can just he can pardon anybody. The immunity, though, means he can do things under official acts that he may get in trouble for, but won't get in trouble because he has immunity. What that is, who knows? But he's got no limitations now. Those are good points. Hopefully, learn lessons from January 6th. Yeah, definitely. What about Republicans filing lawsuit against Harris running, getting campaign funds? Going nowhere. There's no basis in law for that. They're just making noise like they fucking do. How did that impeachment of Joe Biden go? How did any of the investigations that they did go? They're all failures. They're trying to make noise, trying to create chaos. And these are some last gasps. They're desperate right now. They're panicky, and they're going to try anything. They're going to throw every bit of shit against the wall. And unfortunately, they have a track record of being failures at doing that. So I'm not worried about that. Biden or Harris could call in the troops on them. Yeah, absolutely. If they're going to attack something, a group of Trumplafucks, you can bet the National Guard's going to come out. And if they keep pushing forward, it's not going to be pretty for those Trumplafucks. But again, they're cowards. They aren't going to do it in the first place. And if they did, the first moment they saw the National Guard, they'd be running like little pussy ass bitches. Let's see. Cooper would be a great attorney general. That's a possibility. We need a better attorney general. There's no question about that. Because of what's going on with Israel, I don't think they'll choose Shapiro. He's Jewish. I considered that. And some other people have been asked that, and they said that doesn't really make a difference. But I understand what you're saying, and I did consider that for a time too. So I don't know. the thing is, I think she's going to have to make a choice in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see who it is that ultimately gets tapped for the VP. I do know this with Kamala Harris, her advisors, and Joe Biden, they'll make the right choice. They'll make a good choice and they'll have good reason for it. Maybe for reasons we don't even know at this point. That's distinctly possible. Um, all right, we're getting a little later in the time. I'm going a little longer than I thought I would. I'm glad I had a chance to come out here and talk to you folks. I love it when I get the interaction from people. I get that same thing on the podcast, the Rational Boomer podcast. I will have listeners who are guests on the show frequently. I read every email I get, so I get a lot of interaction. And when I do the lives, I get great interaction, and it's wonderful to have a chance to talk to you folks directly. Now, for you folks watching the live, I want you to know that this live is also going to be a Rational Boomer podcast. I would encourage you to check out the Rational Boomer podcast. It's on Spotify, the audio version. Just go in there and search Rational Boomer, or go to YouTube, and the video version is there. So check out the Rational Boomer podcast. We do it every day. We talk about a lot of stuff. We can expand on the stuff. We have a lot of input from listeners. It's a good show, if I do say so myself, and I hope you check it out. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me on this live. It's always great fun. The moderators did a fine job of keeping me alive here and keeping the Trumplefucks at bay. So to the moderators, thank you very much. And thank you to all of you that joined us. We had a pretty good crowd out here today. I'll be doing another live, maybe even tomorrow night after the speech from Joe Biden. I may do that too, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you very much. You have a good night. Check out the Rational Boomer podcast. And with TikTok and YouTube, we'll be talking tomorrow. All right. We're back on the podcast. We wrapped up the TikTok live, and we're going to wrap up the podcast. We went about an hour and a half. That's more than I thought, but it was a good time, a lot of good questions. And I thank you for listening to the Rational Boomer podcast and the TikTok live indirectly. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day. And of course, we will talk to you again tomorrow.